Welcome back, Red Spotters. Now, during the Red Spotlight Podcast, I'm your host, Alexis J. Soto, joined with Mr. David Francisco. Today, we're going to have a recap of the Hawkeye series on Disney+. Last week, we discussed Episode 4, Partners, am I right? And this week, we're talking about Episode 5, Ronin. This is Episode 5 of 6 episodes for this series on Disney+. And it's hard to believe that we're already at the end of this. Again, it's one of these things where you... this only just... felt like it started, and now I guess we're at the end. And so we're going to be talking about the episode as it happened in sequence in a very spoiler-filled discussion. But of course, before we get into any of that, we will discuss our initial impressions of the episode and anything else we'd like to say here on Red Spotlight number 364. First of all, of course, we can't really move on from this until we establish a couple of things. Of course, in the world of Marvel, it is kind of a massive week, right? So we're recording this the day before Spider-Man No Way Home opens in theaters. This is episode 364. I do anticipate that we will discuss probably No Way Home in episode 367, because in 365 that's going to be dropping on, I believe, Sunday, December, the 19th or the 18th? And that is going to be Peter and I's review. Well, actually, you're going to hear us react to the... We already recorded this episode. I know they're airing out of sequence, but we talked about the reactions to No Way Home, and I'll ask you, David, in a minute about what you thought about those reactions. So we'll be discussing in some way No Way Home and the reactions to the film already when that episode drops on Sunday, but more to the point, I do want to bring attention to that episode because we also did 2 reviews on Being the Ricardos, starring Nicole Kidman and Javier Bardem, and we also did a review of Steven Spielberg's West Side Story, which was pretty interesting all around. Are you at all, you and your sister, planning to see that film? I know that you were kind of interested in that movie earlier in the year because it's a musical, and it's a pretty big musical at that.
Mm-hmm. I'm actually going to watch it tonight.
Are you? Okay.
Yeah. My sister isn't. She's not that interested.
Really?
Yeah.
Why?
Just something with the cast, and, it's just, and she just doesn't like that this movie in particular is getting a lot of attention over in the Heights.
Well, maybe she should see it before she makes that judgment call, but I do respect her, I guess, her position to boycott something. But I mean, I don't want to, make anything I get definitely the sting, because In the Heights was definitely bombarded, and though, to be fair, West Side Story does have a lot in common with In the Heights, in that they both bombed at the box office, and they did pretty much the same way as badly. The thing is, West Side Story has the benefit of coming out during awards season, first and foremost, and it also has the benefit of a great director directing the movie.
Yeah, that is...
John Woo's not a great director. He's a serviceable director. He's fine, but he's not Steven Spielberg. Most people are not Steven Spielberg. So... we saw the film. My quick takeaway, I've already seen it 3 times. And I want to see it again. I thought this was pretty fucking amazing. This is the best movie he's done probably since 2012. In the Heights, I thought was great, but I don't think you really can compare that to West Side Story on any level whatsoever. So that's just where I come at it from. But that was a surprise to me, because I wasn't necessarily all that excited for this film, because it looked really out of date and kind of needless and useless. But just to talk about that film, I would like anyone who is listening at the moment to go out and see it, because of course most people will not and have not, because of course musicals don't sell that much anymore at the box office. And then also we have Spider-Man. So for those who are interested in a great film, it's West Side Story, and it's out in theaters right now. But I'm disappointed to hear that she's not going to be seeing it, because I was looking forward to hear what she thought of it, because I know she is a big fan of musicals. I do consider her to be the aficionado of the group in terms of Broadway musicals. So I'm saddened to hear that she's not going to see it, but I definitely respect her choice. But for me, and I say that as somebody who genuinely loved In the Heights, this was just, it really does make a difference when you have a great director doing a musical. It makes it a difference in so many ways. So I hope I didn't raise your expectations way too high. Please don't. But I mean, it's.
I mean, I'm excited. I was excited about it because Steven Spielberg is directing it. Like I know it's going to be really good, and a lot, and everything else is honestly more of a filmmaking perspective. It's just like when I saw the trailer, I was like, there is something about this movie that looks different.
You have no idea.
Just the quality of it.
Yeah.
And I was like, I love it. I need to see it just for that.
From the filmmaking standpoint, all the crafts, when we talk about that, the cinematography, the production design, the set pieces, the costumes, the visuals, from a crafts perspective, this thing is kind of a masterpiece. And it sweeps you in a way that, like, for the sheer love of film and film itself, that will do it for you tenfold. To say nothing, of course, of the beautiful music. The thing is that West Side Story has a huge advantage over In the Heights, whereas In the Heights is relatively new. West Side Story is over 60 years old and has like classic beloved songs. And my hot take is, and I did go back and watch the original film. I hadn't seen it before, but I watched the original film before watching this new one. And it's to me, this is the first and maybe one of the rarest circumstances in which I will say, not that this wasn't necessarily a remake of that film, although a lot of it is the same because it's the same story, but it's like a Disney live action remake happened, but it was actually better in every way imaginable than the original, which of course won't happen because you're translating animation to live action. That can't be done.
Yeah,
Disney doesn't realize this, but that can't be done. But in this circumstance, you have two live action films, one literally 60 years apart, from 61 and 2021. And Spielberg's version of it is just immeasurably better. The cast is better. The songs are sung better. So I'm hoping to go see it again with Kyle because he hasn't seen it yet. So you already know, if I'm already going out to see the movie that many times, it's definitely sparked something in me. And so, but of course, Peter always has very interesting takes when it comes to musical, and I promise you, this is no exception. This is no exception. He thought the film was great, by the way, but there were some things about him that didn't work for him because primarily it is rooted in Romeo and Juliet, the William Shakespeare story. A lot of West Side Story really is the story of Romeo and Juliet. So there are things about those stories that are kind of the same, that will probably lose some people just because of the nature of the story, but that's kind of where it was. So that's our next episode. That's going to be episode 365. Episode 366 is going to be, at least I believe it will be, unless something changes, which it could change. But at the moment where I'm standing at, I'm thinking 366 and 367. The order may flip. I can't say for sure what it'll be, but the next two episodes after that will be our review of the finale for Hawkeye, as well as for you and me, and then for Peter and I, will be reviewing Spider-Man No Way Home. So just to keep people up to date as to what will come later on this month. And then at that point, we're already so close to the holidays. I mean, the holidays are here basically, but that's how close we are to it. At some we are going to go and see Nightmare Alley and The Kingsman and The Matrix. So when those reviews will come, that's a lot of stuff already happening this month. So just to keep people up to date as to where we're at. It's a jam-packed time to be a movie fan, but you know what? It's exciting, and I think it definitely preferred to the alternative than last year where we had nothing. We had literally nothing new to talk about for the most part. So yeah, that's where we're at right now with our shows. And so as far as today is concerned, we have a review for Hawkeye. Yes, we have that, but we also have a couple of other lingering aspects to address. And that would be, first and foremost, Spider-Man No Way Home. Have the reactions out, and I shared a whole bunch of early reactions and early reviews. Peter and I did go into this in depth. So again, that discussion, if you want to hear it, will be on episode 365 toward the beginning of the episode. But I want to give David a chance to really give his thoughts as to what the current reaction to the film has been. Like, basically, is it what you expected? And if it is, does it make you more or less excited? Are you keeping your expectations in check? Have these reactions given you a newfound reason for hope? Or do you still feel it'll just be a fun film, nothing more than that? Yeah, what do you think?
Mm-hmm. Some of my expectations, honestly, have been pretty low, just because, I mean, we all know what's gonna happen, and so I'm just kind of like, and so I am kind of worried that the big thing of the movie is just gonna like overshadow like the story and the character, and because of how I reacted with the second movie, you know, it's like I enjoyed it, but there was something about it that was just like, it stopped me from loving it. So yeah, my expectations are pretty low.
Yeah.
In terms of the reactions, I only saw one actually. I was kind of ignoring what you posted or what you sent.
Okay.
But I'm guessing it's all the same stuff. You know, it was super fun. I'm guessing.
Yeah.
People are loving it. Probably some of it has to do with the big thing. Which, I mean, even without seeing it, I'm guessing I'm right about that.
Mm-hmm.
But then I think I only saw one. Yeah, it was I think it had something to do with the cameos of the characters or something. I can't remember what it was exactly.
Right.
But basically saying what I just said, that was going to overshadow the characters in the story. Oh, I remember now. I remember. It was there was one guy complaining about how the Eternals was like out of the formula, and this one was like in the formula, and it's the same people that are like.
That tweet I sent yesterday.
Yeah.
Go on.
Yeah, it was something like that. It was, you know, it's just people are getting annoyed with the Marvel formula, but then they see a movie with the Marvel formula and loving it. But then you have Eternals that's out of the formula and.
Not completely, mostly, but there's still things of the formula that we feel are why the film was held back so much. But then, of course, when the impression you get off a lot of the reviewers and the critics, it was because it deviated from the formula, that you get the impression that that's because that's the reason for why the reception was so tepid. Which is pretty hypocritical, because many of those people often claim that they want Marvel to deviate from the formula. Let me read the tweets that I have right here that I sent yesterday, because I sent this in response to Spider-Man No Way Home automatically getting 100%. It's gone down a little since then, but 100% on Rotten Tomatoes to begin with. And Eternals, I believe, had an initial Rotten Tomatoes score of 60-some, low 60s, which then went down into the 50s, or actually, yeah, I think, or maybe even the 40s. I'm not even sure. Which that's kind of absurd, really. But it is what it is. So this is the tweet that I sent out from a Twitter account called @StuffandFilms. And their response was, guarantee if Eternals featured a bunch of Avenger cameos, had huge action scenes, take place within New York, and put tons of fan service above the plot and characters, it would have gotten a positive score on Rotten Tomatoes. This is not a diss. I am extremely excited for No Way Home. Just noticing the same critics who criticized the Marvel formula judged Eternals for deviating from it and being too plot and characters, and then turned around and praised No Way Home for being a bad fun film in quotation marks. One Rotten Tomatoes critic literally said Spider-Man No Way Home didn't have to be a good movie because it was nostalgic, fun, and full of Easter eggs and a fan-servicing movie. Like, huh? Isn't this the same thing you all criticize Marvel for doing with their other films? That was the tweet I think you were referencing.
Yes, that was it. And yeah, that's that's basically my only worry. I don't understand how people think that's a good like defense for a movie. Like, it doesn't have
that it's
to be
a bad
good.
Fun film.
Yeah, or like, no, I mean, you know, just saying like it doesn't need to be good because it has this. You know, like there's nothing wrong with, you know, saying like, oh, it's a bad fun film and all that. It's just, if you want to say a movie is like great, fantastic, awesome, but then you also say, well, it doesn't have to be that.
Right.
It's just, what the fuck? Like,
yeah, that's not the best defense. Or maybe I should say that's not the best way to go about explaining at least what you personally would excuse, right? So in this particular case, and I think you can read between the lines for a lot of these early reviews, at least I did, is many of them are having a hard time calling the movie strong or good, which suggests there are problems. And a lot of these early reactions do suggest problems of it being kind of a mess, which is something we all long anticipated it would be. But the defense then becomes the thing that this film was most preoccupied with is not being a good movie, which, But and then they say, well, the primary thing would be, does it get the Spider-Man stuff right? Sure, and that may be the case, but that also, look, I think the jury is out until we see the film and we can actually then like discern for ourselves what it is they're saying that happens in the end of the film that they felt was so overwhelming that it excuses a lot of the lesser of its parts, which, to be fair, every person has their own reaction to how they will, how they analyze, or how they will critique a movie, right? And so there are examples of films that definitely have weaker elements of it. And everybody ultimately, because film is subjective, right? Everybody will, really decide for themselves what it is they're willing to excuse and how ultimately to see like if they will get to a place of overall liking it or overall disliking it. With Eternals, I think it's been said time and time again, like we didn't really excuse any of its faults. I think a lot of us though, I think most of us at this point that have talked extensively about it, yourself, Peter, Alexis, myself included, ultimately have landed on like, we really like this movie a lot in spite of its problems. But we didn't ignore the problems and we didn't excuse them whatsoever. Time and time again, we said, look, if these are issues for you, and we recognize them as actual problems that we have ourselves, but if that in and of itself is enough to just sink the whole film for you, that is perfectly understandable and I will not blame you. But that isn't to suggest, of course, that every single thing that is thrown out into the ether as like issues, quote unquote, or problems, quote unquote, are valid or are real. And it also is furthermore telling what it is you're willing to excuse, right? So with Eternals, I think for us, like it all comes from where we come from. With Eternals, we came from it from the standpoint of, well, this is doing something new for Marvel, right? They're trying something different as far as their whole storytelling approach. And while they still have constraints with the formula, you get the sense that there is a director that has a vision here and is trying to do something new and different with the story and trying to aim for a much, asking bigger questions than most Marvel films do. And I think that is a different thing than from people who will look at No Way Home and they will look at the stuff that happens there. And if it's mostly all just the fan service, if it's mainly just like, well, look at these moments and look at these conversations and look at these crossovers, well, that to me sounds a lot like the stuff that happened when we had a discussion of Ghostbusters Afterlife, right? Where it was basically fan service the movie. And look, I guess that it all depends on who you are and how you look at movies. But like, to me, if that's where all of this love and adoration is coming from, well, that's that already, indicates to me, like, again, look who we're talking about here. We're talking about most Marvel fans, and what has been the common thread throughout most of our podcasts? Again, we're big Marvel fans. Look at all the Marvel content that we talk about this year. There is so much content we've done this year just on Marvel. All of the Disney Plus shows, as well as audio commentaries on several films like Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 and Spider-Man Far From Home. Like, we devote so much time because we are fans of this franchise. We definitely are. But we also have to acknowledge when we talk about the fan base and the fandom as a whole, the things that they go for are very much different than what we want out of these storytelling devices. I know that went into a big rant, basically, but that's just to differentiate yet again our different points of view on all of this, and kind of just to further explain ourselves.
No, yeah, I get it. It's just like, I mean, it's just when I say a movie is like good or great, that's something where like I want to recommend it to you guys, and I've done that before in the group chat.
Yes,
our Arcane, Lost in Space, Sweet Tooth. Like I sent it to you guys, like you guys
Malignant.
need to watch this. Malignant. Yeah, that's so good. Yeah, and I mean that one was more of like, it's just you guys gotta watch it. It's super fun.
Yeah.
But if I say something is great, it's because I want to tell people like you need to watch this like right now.
Right.
Forget Hawkeye. Forget all those shows. You need to watch this one.
Right. Yeah.
And so it's just kind of like, whatever.
Yeah. So yeah, interesting. So you have low expectations about it.
Yeah.
I'm curious. I'm very curious to see, because what is likely to happen though is, while a lot of us do have low expectations, I expect that most of us are going to walk out kind of liking this movie, even with our low expectations. And I'm going to expect that's going to be the case, because all of us love Spider-Man. And sometimes that Spider-Man drug may just be too much. The nostalgia works a lot of the time. Look at the reaction that came out of the Ghostbusters crowd after Afterlife. Look at all of us Star Wars bitches after The Force Awakens. When they do this stuff, it works. And pretty overwhelmingly. Look at Rogue One. Where that had a sweeping conclusion, and everybody was just like, when that movie ended, we all saw it together. One of the few films our entire group saw it together. It's like we were at a rock concert, how loud people were. So that's how I expect this to go.
Yeah, and I mean, the references, it's going to work on me with Spider-Man. Like, I'm going to enjoy it because of it.
Oh, yeah.
But, in the end, I'm going to say, I wish I hadn't done that. Or, like, I'm still going to go, I loved it. Mm-hmm. I just don't like why they did it.
Yeah, and I think it's also a point I wanted to make in my previous rant that should be stated is, when you say something is good and something is bad, that's not the same thing as saying that you like it or don't like it. If you're saying something is good, it doesn't mean that you liked it. If you're saying something is bad, it doesn't mean that you didn't like it. That's just the reality of things. There is a difference between a movie that is good and a movie that you liked. Mm-hmm. So, I mean,
I think McDonald's is good.
Yeah.
Is it bad for me? Yes. But I'm still gonna eat it.
Well, that's not what that wouldn't be the place that I would necessarily go to, at least, but that is necessarily true. Yes. Health-wise, that is entirely accurate. But it's like what I said with Peter a few weeks ago on the podcast. I think it was when we discussed Eternals. I would rather have a film that I liked than a film that I could call good and just be whatever about it any day. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of where it is. So just to keep that in mind, for all of us that we discuss films, because a lot of the things that we do discuss on here are very much grounded in nuance and different, and everybody has different points of view and different takes. And yeah, just because a discussion necessarily hinges one way or the other, unless it's pretty obvious, it doesn't necessarily mean that this person. I mean, it's pretty rare that there comes a project, whether it be a film or a TV show, where we're just like so won over overwhelmingly. There are always, gripes to be had. But then again, that also speaks to everybody's different perspective. So, with that being said, there is something I wanted to read here. I haven't read this myself, full disclosure, but I just wanted to read this. This is from Screen Rant. We talked a lot about how, this year, especially lately, right, in 2021, there were a lot of like really made up generated articles to bring up the whole canon debate, right, with certain Marvel shows, S.H.I.E.L.D. included. Well, this is a pretty rare circumstance where I unless I'm about to embarrass myself here, it seems as if Screen Rant is making a different kind of case. Let me read this to you, okay? This is called Hawkeye's Mockingbird Twist. Now, this is in relation to what we discussed last week about certain people's theories of Laura, which is Clint's wife, being the Mockingbird for this MCU. This is the article. How Hawkeye's Mockingbird twist could still make another Marvel show canon. So this is what it reads. Hawkeye could use its possible Mockingbird twist to make Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. canon. I'm going to stop right there. Now that is definitely a rare article just in and of itself that makes this case, because a lot of the stuff that we've read and that we've discussed on here swings the other direction. This is what it continues to say. The Marvel Cinematic Universe officially moved to the small screen thanks to Disney Plus, but Marvel TV created multiple shows for ABC, Netflix, Hulu, and Freeform over the last decade. These shows routinely referenced events in the MCU movies, but the films almost never repeated or repaid the favor. This has led to an ongoing debate about whether or not shows like Daredevil are properly part of the MCU canon. Hawkeye could use a potential upcoming twist to legitimize Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.'s place in the MCU. Viewers have been speculating about Hawkeye's possible connection to Daredevil with Kingpin. Yeah, we'll take to that in a bit. But the show teased another big connection in Hawkeye Episode 4. In it, Linda Cardellini's Laura Barton became the subject of theories about who she really is. After speaking another language, digging up dirt on Clint Barton's targets, and more, many began wondering if she could be the MCU's Mockingbird. The Marvel superhero is married to Clint in the comics, so this could be a chance for the MCU to make it part of Clint's story. However, it does create a complication with Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. as Adrienne Palacki played Mockingbird in the series. Right now, the show seems to no longer be canon. Again, that's subjective and not at all confirmed, but that's definitely this writer's perspective. And Hawkeye's Mockingbird twist would certainly seem to confirm that, although not necessarily. Why? Because the word Mockingbird was literally mentioned 0 times in the entire show. And while Adrienne Palacki's character Bobby Morse was definitely inspired by the Mockingbird character in the comics, clearly the show did not call her Mockingbird for a reason. So it's very much, it is the character, but not by name, and so we can throw that out the window. But as the person continues, but there is a way the twist could actually bring the show into MCU canon. If Hawkeye is building toward a Mockingbird twist for Laura Barton, the show could reveal that she was the original version of the superhero. The series may have already teased her superhero days and retired status through the mysterious Avengers Watch and her oddly deep knowledge of spycraft. However, instead of the twist revealing that Laura is a cover name for Bobby Morse, it can work in tandem with Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.'s Laura's maiden name could be Morse, and Hawkeye can reveal that she has a younger sister named Bobby who took up the Mockingbird mantle when she retired. This would allow the MCU to make Linda Cardellini's character a former superhero and open the door for Palacki to return as Bobby. Most importantly, though, it could officially make Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. MCU canon. Connecting Hawkeye's Laura Barton and Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.'s Bobby Morse together to form a Mockingbird legacy isn't terribly complicated to accomplish either. If Laura were Mockingbird in the past, she would have retired from S.H.I.E.L.D. and the superhero game a few years before 2015 to start a family with Clint. Considering they already had 2 kids at this point, her retirement may have come a few years after Hawkeye began working for S.H.I.E.L.D. No matter when exactly Laura stopped being Mockingbird, Bobby could have quickly taken over the role due to her status with S.H.I.E.L.D. and a desire to keep the codename in the family. She would then be able to keep the Mockingbird mantle and Laura's legacy alive. Real quick, though, I recently did go back and, because I'm watching Untold Reacts, and they're currently reacting to Season 2 of S.H.I.E.L.D. I think there is 1 or 2 exchange dialogue reads where Bobby Morse mentions Clint Barton. So I don't know if that... Whatever, it's just a line of dialogue or whatever.
Also,
yeah,
I just realized, what if she was the Black Widow, Clint's wife?
You see, that's another one of those things too.
Because she was speaking Russian, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, she could have been the former Black Widow, and I can totally see Nat probably the one that set him up with her. Because that's what she does.
That honestly works a lot more than it has any right to. Yeah. What you just said right there.
Yeah, it literally just came to my head, and I was like, this seems pretty fucking obvious. And the reason why she's in hiding, the reason why they're like really trying to like hide away her and his family is because maybe she wasn't like a hidden Black Widow. Maybe people at the government found out about her,
right?
Somehow. So, yeah,
and I think that's about it for this. This is an interesting theory, but to me, I have to preface every discussion when it comes to like connections the MCU has to the show S.H.I.E.L.D. with like this hasn't necessarily happened before, so why should we expect it to happen now? Of course, we're living in a time where we're beginning to see a reemergence of certain long-lost characters in the MCU proper now, so anything goes, really, but again, it's always, I think, very unlikely when it comes to S.H.I.E.L.D. But again, I think the point with this article is, could this theory work? Yes. Would it be honestly pretty easy for that connection to be made? Absolutely. I think most people would even accept it. You really wouldn't have to work around anything to just make this a connection. But that implies that the desire exists to even connect it to S.H.I.E.L.D. Now, you don't have to, I feel, mostly because, as I just mentioned, Bobby Morse was never called Mockingbird. Granted, of course, the Mockingbird character in the comics is Bobby Morse, so it would be a change for Laura Barton than to be Mockingbird. Of course, unless they do the different scenario that we discussed last week, and that is Laura Barton is a like cover name and her actual name is Bobby Morse. Mm-hmm. Then that opens a whole different can of worms altogether, if that's the case. So that wasn't seemingly touched at all in this episode, and I guess we're going to say that for the finale of Hawkeye. Which, do you have anything else to say on this Mockingbird situation before we move on?
No.
Okay, so getting into this, before we get on to the episode, what is it about season 1 that feels a little short? Like, this is the weird thing about it. For a lot of the series, it kind of like, I'm of two minds of this, if you couldn't already tell. I think for most of the series, it felt like, well, this, either you're padding or what's going on to get to the point, but now that we finished this episode, I'm kind of wondering, like, how is everything going to be resolved in one more episode? But I guess they'll find a way. And I guess I'm also just wondering what the future of this series looks like. If there is a Hawkeye season 2, we know Kate Bishop's coming back. We know Yelena Belova is coming back. A lot of people are coming back. So I guess we'll see where all of this goes. I like Hawkeye quite a bit. I'm enjoying it a lot. I don't know at this moment if I'm ready to say that it is like better than any of the other Disney Plus series. But I think it has the potential to maybe have the best finale of the 4.
Yeah, I think so. Seems I feel like they're really building up to a good team up with Kay and Hawkeye, because I know we had the chase scene in the car, and but to me that's not really them working together. Like, literally, it was just Clint handing stuff out. Right,
they're not officially a team at that point yet.
Yeah, and then you got, I know there was the rooftop scene too, but that one, I don't know. To me, they were facing off someone individually.
That was a battle royale.
That was a battle royale. Yeah, that's exactly what it is. So it wasn't really much of a team up. So I think they really are building up a team up with them in the final episode, especially because they got the costumes ready.
Right, they do. They got them.
Yeah, and then in terms of the payoffs of it, I mean, I'm not really sure where it's gonna, because from this episode, it seems like it's gonna take a turn, the next one. So I really have no idea what's gonna happen with that.
Yeah. I'm just curious to see, ultimately how it all wraps up and everything. So, episode 5, Ronin, again, episode 5 of 6 episodes in total. I don't know what it is, but I feel like I'm liking every episode more and more and more. But it also does feel like we are in a way, while there are certain pieces on the chessboard, it does begin to ramp up to a conclusion. Overall, I thought it was another solid episode, with some especially strong sequences and moments from certain characters, that's for sure. And I think my takeaway right now is Jeremy Renner is a great actor, if that hasn't already been established. He got a couple of moments here that are like, damn, you're making me feel some stuff here. And again, that's, I think, the luxury that we've been able to really have with a lot of these Disney Plus shows, is a lot of these side characters in the films finally getting their due, finally getting moments like these, like what happened in this episode, for him to be, to have kind of an emotional showcase. A really great exchange between, several, I think, great exchanges in this episode. A lot of it was wonderful, like scenes between Vera Farmiga and Haley Steinfeld. And then we also had Florence Pugh, who is incredibly talented. You have two incredibly talented women in the same room. You have Florence Pugh and Haley Steinfeld. That is just like, wow. That's fun. Wasn't it? It was surprisingly fun. And it kind of does remind you that really, despite whatever we are of the movie, it goes to show you there's a reason why Florence Pugh was kind of the runaway breakout star of that picture. Because she's kind of a lot of fun. And she definitely was that here. And then, we see Hawkeye confront Maya in a pretty direct way that makes me all curious where all of this is going to go into the finale. But overall, it was definitely the calm before the storm. But I enjoyed this episode quite a bit.
Yeah, same.
Okay, that's it.
Yeah,
all right. So
it's just I kind of added some stuff like while we were both talking, while you were giving your thoughts. So.
Well, if that's the case, go ahead and get into where we begin this week.
Yeah,
and we begin in 2018. Yeah, I wonder. It took me longer than it should have to get what they were gonna do with this. But once I caught on to it before it actually happened, like, oh, they're gonna do this again.
Yeah. So no, I keep getting my years wrong, so I'm like 2018. That's Infinity War, right? Okay.
Yeah.
Like even the first episode, like 2012. That's Infinity War, right? No, that's not it.
That's the Avengers movie, and the Black Widow film took place in 2016, which is the same year as Civil War. So this is 2 years after we've seen her debut.
Yeah, so we're with Yelena, and she's trying to free another Black Widow, only to find out that this one was already free, wasn't mind controlled or anything like that, I think. So they were just chatting up, so like they were wondering like, what have you done? And turns out she was just doing some contract work for killing people for money. And they did bring up Nat. They told Yelena, or she's like talking to her or anything, and I think that was cool that they did talk. And
they would be, I would imagine, on some level. They're spies, of course. Yeah.
And then she decides to go to the bathroom, and then in that moment she blipped away, but also came back right after. And
not right after, after 5 years, but from her perspective, it was almost immediate. And I think that's a pretty cool touch, right? We've seen the snap happen already from the perspective of people who were around. Like, let's say in the opening scene of WandaVision episode 4, where Monica Rambeau comes back. We've seen that perspective of them coming back. But in this one, we have a different perspective of somebody who was blipped, and how it really just, maybe that's why it's called the blip, because it just feels like that. Like you're like, it was just an instant blip. You're here and then you're back. And like, it's like, wait, what just happened? Yeah. And 5 years go by.
Yeah, and I liked the way they showed it though. Yeah, like she was seeing everything change around her. Like, interesting. And then it's the same woman as she tried to free. 5 years later, she's married, has kids and everything. and she offers her help, saying she can get her started with, I guess, contract work, which is, I guess, how later on she meets
Valentina,
Hydra woman. Valentina, yeah.
Val.
Which is Val, yeah. Which I thought was pretty interesting that they added that. Like, cool. They didn't need to add that. It was just more of, I thought it was just going to be more of just, hey, look, 5 years passed.
Right.
Now she knows. And the scene ended with her going like, oh my gosh, I need to talk to Nat. And I got worried there for a second because I was like, because she's saying that and it was like a bit of a pause. And I was like, oh, please don't cut to the other lady and be like, oh, I have to tell you something like that or something.
Yeah, thankfully that didn't happen. Yeah. I also don't think she would know at that moment.
Yeah, I know, but it's like, you know how in the past, like with other characters, they've all known what happens in the game.
Yeah,
basically. So I was just like, no, there's no way you would know.
Yeah, we still don't have clarity on that. Amazingly enough, even as some other discussions happen in this episode, we still don't have clarity on what exactly people know or don't know, which is aggravating to me. But you're right. We can't be too sure because we've seen random ass people know exactly all the intimate details as if they were there.
Yeah.
But it didn't happen in this case. But it also was pretty sad. It's like, I have to find Natasha. It's like, bitch, you've no idea.
Sorry.
She's gone.
Yeah. And then cut to Kate. She goes back to her mom's place and she tells her, Clint kicked me out. Doesn't want me to part of this mission anymore. And so the mom just tries to comfort her. Be like, hey, don't worry about it. You know, you tried basically, and now just go for something else. You know, it's not what you planned on, but it'll be okay. Which is, I think any scenes with the both of them, it's really nice, honestly.
It is nice.
They really care about each other.
Yeah, again, two strong actors. Vera Farmiga, she's just, I don't know, she's just a powerhouse in any scene she's in, especially with her daughter, is definitely tender. And it does remind you that even though she has a lot of like sus going on right now, she is still a mom, and it just illustrates that she loves her daughter very, very much. And I thought it was pretty interesting, the exchange that she has with her when they're in Kate's bedroom, and she says, you know, and this caught my attention when she said that sometimes the paths in our lives take us to places that we never thought we would be. And honestly, it really does feel like shit a lot of the time. And I can't help but wonder, when she was saying that to Kate, she was maybe talking about her own life and a lot of the things that she perhaps never thought or saw herself becoming or going into. As we've long suspected, we're not going to get into the reveal just now, but we have been, for weeks now, thinking that she was the villain, or that she was a criminal, or, in connection with the crime ring, or maybe even the tracksuit mafia, or something of the sort that definitely was very much illegal and felt like a crime ring of some sort. And so I feel like that particular line of dialogue was maybe alluding to that maybe that's something that she didn't think that she would ever be a part of. And I don't know if it was you or Peter or somebody else that said this, but perhaps this is how she was able to sustain herself after the loss of her husband. This is the business that she came into. I don't know. Was Bishop Security established before the Battle of New York happened? And if it was it already at that point connected with criminals, or did the criminal element come into play after the loss of the husband? I don't know if we have answers to those questions.
Yeah, I don't think so either. I want to say it started after her husband died. Mm-hmm. Well, I don't know. It's just they were already rich people.
Yeah.
Maybe it could have been before. He did some criminal stuff, and then maybe it was the dad that was doing the criminal stuff. After his death, she was like, "Oh shoot, I gotta step up and like take place of my husband."
Mm-hmm.
And so she started. So while doing that, she also started a business. Could be something like that. Yeah. So, and Kate tells her about the money laundering stuff they found on a shelling company called Sloan that apparently Jack Duquesne is the CEO of. Mm-hmm. Now, when Kate tells
her mom, Eleanor, of this. I really wanted to slap Kate and like, girl, do you not notice right now that your mom literally has no reaction to what you just said? Like, look at the look on her face. There's no reaction. There's no hint of any kind of shock or surprise or denial. She just accepts it and just says, I will look into it. But to me, again, we talked about how certain actors have this ability of really conveying like what they're feeling without saying anything. At least to me, in that moment, she was like, oh, fuck, you know? Well, I guess Jack has to go. That's what I thought she was thinking.
I mean, I noticed that her not reacting much, but like, I don't know. Like maybe I just thought, I just kind of thought she was like, okay, Kate's being weird, but you know, I'll look into it since my daughter is that crazy about it.
She didn't seem surprised to me, man. I think she was like, this can't stand. Again, we have to put a lot of this, we will get into the ending of it. That's for sure. A lot of this kind of comes back around. So after this, Eleanor then tells Kate to go back to her apartment and pick up the rest of her things. And then she finds something pretty unexpected, right?
Yeah, she just gets home and Yelena is there. She's
making herself at home.
Making herself at home, yeah.
Again, this is a burned up apartment at this point, but she's, I guess, home sweet home. Yeah.
And so they start having conversation, and it's so fun, honestly. Just, Yelena's being Yelena. And it was funny though, because I noticed it in the beginning. So she goes, "Hello, Kate Bishop," and then she like every time after that, she just keeps saying her full name, Kate Bishop, Kate Bishop. And I'm getting a little bit ahead, but like later on, she goes, "Are you saying my full name just because you want me to know that you know my full name?" She's like, "Yeah." It's like an intimidation tactic, I guess.
Yeah, she basically knows everything about Kate at this point, where she lives, who her parents are, where she goes to college, everything.
But yeah, basically Yelena's there because she wants to know, like, why the heck are you working with Clint? Do you know what he's done? And she's just kind of like, I mean, yeah, he did some bad stuff, but he saved the world. So, it's forgiven. It's just like, but Yelena's like, no. You should also know that he also killed my sister, Natasha. And she's like,
though she never said that though. She said that her sister was gone because of him. I will get into that in a bit. At no point, and I just watched it again today. She didn't say that Barton killed her sister. She said he's the reason my sister is gone. Now, maybe the implication was the same thing. Maybe she is under the persuasion that yes, Clint did kill her. Why she would be under that persuasion, I don't know, because no one else seems to think so. Also, that would seemingly suggest that she doesn't know, because she says it like this, right? So she says that her sister is gone because of him, and one could read that as saying, okay, well then she's aware of the fact that both of them went to Vormir to get an Infinity Stone, and only one of them came back. But she's seemingly not aware of the fact that this was Natasha's decision to die, and it wasn't Clint that pushed her off the edge. And then also what Kate says in this exchange, well, Natasha and Clint were friends. Why would you want to kill him? And also that also asks the question, or begs the question, why would she think Clint killed Natasha? But then that exchange where she says that, well, he's the reason that my sister is gone, would suggest that she does know of what happened in Vormir. But if she did know the full extent of what happened on Vormir, then she would know this is all kind of a mix-up here. So you see how we're just going in circles, and I'm just kind of like, wait. What are you saying, and how much do you know? And also, does Kate also then not know? Because she also couldn't say that out loud. So again, it goes back to what we were thinking of last week. Does anybody really know like the full context of what happened on Vormir, or do the public just know Natasha died and that's that? Because if that's the case, that also goes back to what we said last week. That's real shit right there. How don't you think the public deserves to know of the woman that sacrificed herself for all of existence? Not just Tony? But then again, you saw Yelena say also in that exchange to Kate, my sister saved the world. Okay, so then do you then know the context of what happened? And if you do, which that comment then suggests, why are you killing? Why are you going to go after him? Do you see why I'm confused here? Because even though I feel like the dialogue given suggests that perhaps she is aware of what happened in Vormir. But then at the same time, her actions go against that entirely. And it makes me question how much they actually know. And I don't know. That kind of gets me frustrated. I mean, I'm lost here. What do you think?
Oh, man.
I feel like we're going in circles.
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, that is kind of confusing now. Because I remember the part where she said, like, my sister saved the world. And I'm like, are you talking about the stones? Or are you talking about, like, the battle and, like, what?
Yeah, like, what exactly is she talking about? Is she referencing, like, like what she actually did? Or is she referencing what maybe the world was told and that she died in the line of fire or something? And it also makes you wonder, why weren't the public aware or notified of the sacrifice? Why would that be kept under wraps? I
don't know. It's weird.
Anyway, the exchange was definitely hilarious. It again reminds you of how great Florence Pugh is as this character. And it also has a little bit of a sinister undertone to it, because it is a reminder that had Yelena wanted to, she very well could have killed Kate in the previous episode. Like, as much as we said that Kate held her own in that battle royale last week, Yelena definitely, like, went easy on her by just, like, walking away immediately. And so she does come off a little bit scary. She does have a darker edge to her than Natasha did.
Yeah, for sure.
Go ahead.
But I mean, it's kind of what gets me excited about if they both work together again.
Right.
Just because, yeah, like you said, Yelena has a bit of a darker edge, and so it'd be kind of cool for Kay to join her, and they can kind of, like, she's the one that, like, would have to calm her down a bit. My only worry, though, in this interaction is that they're a bit too similar, like, personality-wise.
Kate and Yelena?
Yeah. It's just like, right now you didn't see much of Kate's personality just because she was scared that Yelena might kill her and all that. But, like, as, maybe if their friendship grew, which is going to happen, because it's a Black Widow and a Hawkeye. So.
Well, I mean, it could, though. I mean, it is something to note that in that sequence, you basically have the replacements or the successors. You have Kate Bishop, who will be the new Hawkeye, and then you also have Yelena Belova, who is the new Black Widow. So there is that going on there.
Yeah. It's just, I mean, it's funny, but then I'm kind of like, it's kind of obvious.
Yeah. Yeah. But it's also interesting, though, the things that she says about Clint, and I mean Yelena, and that is, like, why is all forgiven? I mean, what does it even mean to be an Avenger at this point? Do you know how many people he's killed? And sure, those could be reasonable points, but at the same time, Kate's right too. It's like, who hired you, and what's going on here, really? And at this moment in the episode, seemingly we all thought we knew who hired her, and that would be Val, because we saw the post-credit scene for Black Widow.
Yeah.
I guess no, and we'll get to that in a minute. We'll get to that toward the end of the episode. Real quick, as a kind of an aside here, the opening sequence of this episode was, I'm not sure, I think it was good. I'm wondering if maybe this would have been more appropriate as a post-credit scene to the actual Black Widow movie.
Her disappearing?
Yeah. And then coming back. And then, like, it ends off with her, where is Natasha? And then it cuts to black. Like, that whole opening scene.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I think there is, when we get to it, I think there is an explanation. for the post credit scene, the actual one in the movie. So I think we should just wait. So
okay,
because I mean I kind of liked it because it does lead to Hawkeye and everything.
It does,
and I think there is an explanation as to like who hired her and all that.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah.
So then, Yelena basically threatens her to just get out of the way.
Mm-hmm.
And she seemingly still of the mind that she's going to kill Clint.
Yeah, that's basically it. And then she just
leaves,
jumps out the window.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then I think that's the last time we see her until she comes back with Hawkeye, right?
Yelena?
No, Kate.
I think she comes back to the apartment, does she not? Well, you know what? We kind of missed a sequence in the middle there. In the middle of this long sequence with Kate and with Yelena, we cut to Clint going to Grill's place. Grill being one of the LARPers, and Grill's taking care of Pizza Dog. And we get to this scene of like, do you want to see the costumes? Yes, we want to see the costumes. But Clinton's like, no, I don't want to see the costume. And of course, we have to wait until the finale. They do this all the time. They got to wait till the finale just to see those costumes, which is annoying. But okay, fine. I get it.
Yeah.
It was that.
Yeah, but it's exciting.
It is.
It's always
I can't wait to see it.
But yeah, he just goes there and just, I think it was just to kind of rest, tells him, wait, what did he go to? Oh, I think it was just to tell him if he can take care of the dog for a couple more days and all that. And he's got to get something in the bed, but he just wanted to rest a bit.
Yeah.
Then later on, does he see the plaque first or does he call his wife?
Well, no, the plaque happens. But I think before any of that happens, doesn't Kate go back to Eleanor and then we see the police arresting Jack?
Oh, that's right. Yeah. They arrest him, and he's just like, get out of this," which is like,
it was pretty. I mean, if you listen to his line of dialogue, it's like, "I've never worked a day in my life," which is pretty true. He's that rich. Like he's never would have to work. So I think part of me wants to believe him. I feel like I'm of the mind right now, at least in terms of how I read that sequence. Eleanor, basically sacrificed Jack or whatever, and like, bye. It's you or me, and it's not gonna be me. And she just kind of like bumped him off, and I feel like maybe like Jack's entire presence on this show maybe only served the purpose of being a red herring, with him literally having a mustache to twirl and everything too. So I'm thinking that's the direction where it's gonna go, but at the same time, either Jack is that good of an actor or he's just that aloof and unaware. But the confidence, I've never seen a man so confident in handcuffs as he's being walked off with like, "I'll be back for the party." And I don't blame you for calling the police, with a smile on his face too, which on its face is a little sus, but knowing him, it may just be him.
Yeah. No, it's just I thought almost confusing because like he seems super confident that he's gonna get away, either because he's innocent or because he's just that good of a criminal. But then also the mom, though, just like, I feel like she would be more heartbroken.
She didn't seem to care all that much, did she? At all, which is like, again, that's even more sus.
Mm-hmm. But yeah. That's basically it.
Like Kate was crying and like Eleanor was like, "Hell, hi." Oh yeah.
Yeah. She didn't even say anything to him, huh? It
no.
wasn't like not even like a "stay away from me," like
no.
you monster, or I don't
nothing.
Know, like
absolutely nothing.
Yeah, weird. Then after that, Kate's trying to call Clint or something, or do they talk?
Yes, I believe that's what happens. She's trying, or actually, no. That happens after we see Clint at the memorial, or at the plaque.
Oh, okay. Well, then the plaque thing happens, and this was a good scene.
Did you recognize what part of New York that was? I believe that was a key part of the Battle of New York. Remember the part where I think it must have been the three of them, like Clint, Natasha, and Steve were all helping each other on the ground against the Shatari, and there was like a bridge somewhere. Whatever, it's all the same part of it, but like that was definitely near the epicenter of the Battle of New York, so just something a little bit extra flair in there for people who are fans of that and everything. This was a damn good scene. Yeah. This was a damn good scene. Again, so this is an example of like how this show is doing so much more to provide closure to Natasha than her own movie ever did. Where, quite frankly, her own movie was far more concerned with setting up her replacement than providing closure.
Yeah. So he's looking at the plaque and he takes off his earpiece, so like doesn't hear anyone else. Maybe hopefully doesn't get bothered by anyone.
Right.
And he's just saying goodbye. He's saying like,
I miss you.
Yeah, he misses her and everything, and just
he keeps thinking about it. He keeps thinking about the situation that happened. He said like I keep running through the situation so many times in my head about how differently it could have been. And he thanks her for her sacrifice and for her delivering his family back to him. And that he tries to basically do whatever he can every day to feel like he earned her sacrifice.
Over a stone. He says that.
Yeah.
It's like over a yellow stone. Yeah. And I think didn't he say something about her keeping the team together or something like that?
Yeah, you were always the strongest.
Yeah, that was so nice.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Because that's who Nat was, yeah.
Why did it have to be in this?
Right?
God damn it. Oh, God.
This is exactly what I mean. It's like, this is such a good scene, and this is the stuff we've been clamoring for years now, right? Like, we're now getting to see the people who were closest to Natasha firsthand. We are seeing them, still grapple with her loss, which is a lot more that can be said for everybody else, which again, also, not to relitigate this can of worms, but at the same time, we're still not sure as to like what the public knows and doesn't know about the circumstances of Natasha's death. And maybe that's going to be a little bit of a speculation time here. Ultimately, how does Yelena stop herself from killing Clint? Does he tell her the full context of what happened, and that's what does it? Because we're operating under the assumption that she does not know the full context of what happened on Vormir, and once she's informed by Clint, assuming she believes it, then that'll be what happens. And that's why she'll stand down. Is that what we think will happen, or how else? Because of course she's not really going to kill Clint. We know that. So how does she stop herself from doing so?
I don't think, because she's technically there over a job. Like someone put a hit out on him. So maybe they're just going to confront the person that hired her, and it's going to be like, "Hey, back down." Yeah, I'm sure it's gonna be like in the last minute, like, no, contract's off or something like that. And then when then that's how she'll calm down or something. I don't know. I think it's either gonna be because of the person that hired her, or maybe Kate's gonna actually stop her.
Maybe that will be interesting. So, God, Renner is so good.
Yeah,
like, every word of that scene was just like, that made me feel shit right there. That really did. And like it was so cathartic too, honestly, to have like, even though she's not here at all, Nat get her due. Finally.
I know. And it's not even just because of like what she did in Endgame. Like, when he brought up like she was always the strongest, she kept everyone together. I kept thinking of the Civil War when she sided with Tony because she was like, this might be the safest bet
to keep be together.
To be together, yeah. It's just like, God, that was really cool. But yeah, and then the last thing he says is like, this is why I have to do this or something. Like, I hope you understand like why I have to do this or something like that. And he goes back to get the Ronin suit. He also calls his wife and he tells her, "Hey, this person knows about me and you and the kids and all that. So like, I gotta finish this. Make sure nobody comes after us." And the wife, she seemed pretty worried. Like she was like, "I thought we were being safe. Like, how the fuck could she know?" So that part was just like kind of got me curious. Like, who are you? Like,
Mockingbird,
Mockingbird, Black Widow.
Yeah,
I think it'd be cool. Like what I
if
said
she were a
earlier.
Black Widow, that's a cool theory. Yeah.
Just I like the idea that Nat probably
introduced them and everything.
Introduced them, yeah.
Like she was also a Black Widow that was rescued as well, and also became a member of S.H.I.E.L.D. maybe even, or maybe she wasn't part of S.H.I.E.L.D. at all. Maybe she was just a rescued Black Widow. Who knows? Mm-hmm. But there were some interesting. You're right. Both he and Laura seemed pretty scared about how out of hand this was getting. And I'm sure everyone caught it. It's when he said to her, and she was surprised and shocked when he suggested this, but when he said, "It's only a matter of time before the big guy gets involved." Which... Yeah.
We know who it is.
We've known who it is, but it's just like, I love, if you notice, again, a lot of great musical cues in the show. A lot of great like songs that are just placed at the appropriate moment. Earlier in the episode, when Clint was walking up to Grill's place, we have the song "Christmas Time Is Here," and it's really interesting to have that song. Christmas time is here. Happiness and cheer. Those are the lyrics of the song, and it's played to Hawkeye really having a bad day and like just campy with his family. And then earlier on in the episode, I didn't even mention this again, and I wonder if you noticed, but when Clint is basically talking to Nat in the plaque and everything, again, her Vormir theme comes back. Yeah,
I didn't hear that.
So you need to go back and hear these things. If you listen closer to the music, you hear that Vormir theme. And in this instance, when Clint said the big guy, there was a little bit of a dun dun or a like a foreboding kind of music when he said that, which really was like, not like it was a long motif. It was just like an instant where it's like this guy's trouble, that the music is trying to like communicate that to you. So I was like, oh shit, things are getting real. And yeah, like they both tells her like what he's gonna do and confront Maya, which he does. Before we move on from that, we do see a hilarious moment where Kate is like repeatedly trying to call Clint, and she leaves so many messages on his phone that his voicemail is completely full, where she's basically like refusing to drop this.
Yeah, it was funny though.
It was
some of the stuff she was saying.
I don't know what it is about Haley, but comedy just comes naturally to her.
Right?
She's able to.
It's so weird.
It's just like, it's so easy for her. At least it comes across like it's so easy. Of course, comedy is one of the hardest things it can do, but it just feels like she feels like a natural when it comes to that.
Yeah, for sure. It's great. One of the reasons why I was excited for her to be in the show,
right?
Or at least in the MCU. She's just naturally funny.
Yeah. And yes,
but I think it's well, it's the one of the tracksuit guys. They were driving the truck or something, having a conversation, and then when they turn a corner, fucking arrow goes right through the windshield, and one guy screams like, "Ah!" And there was a little note on it, basically saying, telling Echo to meet him where her dad died, or where she met Ronan. That's what he said. And then cuts to that place, and they're ready. Everyone has guns. One's a sniper and everything, but Clint takes them all out.
He makes quick work of them.
He makes really quick work. I think it was like unnaturally quick though to me. I don't know. I could have been some arrows used. I don't know.
He's the Ronin, David. Yeah, he's the Ronin. We see him do quick work out of a lot of people.
It's just like the one part that like I noticed there though is like where he gets the guy. He like I don't know if he like pushes him or something, but he drags him under a car, and like it's literally like right when he gets dragged, the guy notices, but then all of a sudden he gets pulled the opposite way, and I'm like, I feel like that's unnaturally fast, but whatever. It could have been narrow. I don't know.
Grappling hooks.
Either way, grappling hooks. Yeah. Either way, he catches up with Echo, and they have like a pretty cool fight scene. Again, I love the use of her prosthetic leg.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's just a cool fight scene. He wins and tells her like,
well, he unmasks himself. It reveals that
himself.
He's the Ronin.
Yeah, just basically tells her like, leave me alone. Like, you know who I am now. Leave me alone, or else you're gonna die.
Well, more specifically, if you or anybody else comes after my family, you will die.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. And then
he reveals some information that Maya was not aware of.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he said like, you know, I attacked your gang because someone informed me of them, but it was someone from the inside. So you should probably look into that. And like,
but
I think he was trying
more
to say,
so
like,
that your boss, her boss, wanted her dad dead.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was her. Yeah. I remember now. I remember the exact words. Yeah, it was her boss. It was like his boss, her boss, that informed him.
The same boss who Clint refers to as the big guy, the same boss who Maya refers to as Uncle.
Mm-hmm.
So it's all pointing in one direction.
Mm-hmm. Which is interesting because that's sort of like the comics.
Basically, yeah.
Yeah, it only the boss actually like I think kills her dad. This one though, but like it was just sort of like
in the comics, the uncle adopts Maya.
Mm-hmm.
Although in this case, like the dad was killed and she was no longer a kid.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, so he was as he was explaining that she caught him off guard, and I think she was like about to strike him, but Kate saves the day, and he's able to get away. They meet up in some alley. She called an Uber as they were.
I was laughing so hard because again, this is the parts of comedy that works so well here. Where like, you know, Clint is obviously thankful. He's beat up pretty good, but he's thankful that, you know, Kate came to his rescue, and he asks, "So what's the escape plan or what's the getaway plan?" And immediately she doesn't say anything because she doesn't have to. A car pulls up and basically asks them, "Are you Tabitha?" And then also again, the look on Clint's face is just like, it speaks for itself, right? So of course, like this would be Kate's plan. Oh, she'll just Uber it. We'll just take an Uber to get out of here.
Yeah. But yeah, they get away, and then that's when they're talking, and she told him about Yelena visiting her, and he said that Yelena is Natasha's sister. Oh, the Black Widow assassin was
Yelena.
Yelena, Nat's sister. And he's just like, oh shit, Yelena. Which I like that. I'm glad that he knew about her.
Yeah, and I guess he would be the only one maybe to know, right?
Yeah.
Now I wonder. I'm just trying to think why Nat wouldn't tell Steve about any of them, any of her other sisters, especially since like Nat was on the run with Steve for 2 years. And I also wonder if maybe Clint did he always know? I think he must have always known of Yelena then, because if we look at the history of what we know, Clint was supposed to execute Natasha, and he refused because part of him felt that she wanted out, and so he helped her get out. But of course, Natasha at that point, so maybe he must have known about Yelena for a long time, but I wonder if Yelena ever came up in conversation after the original snap, because as confirmed as this episode, she was snapped away.
Mm-hmm.
But those are just questions I have that make me go like, well, why wouldn't Nat tell Steve? Because she was closest with him beside Hawkeye about her sister.
Well, maybe she did, but again, she got snapped away. So technically, when Tony asks him, did she have any other family? He says us because literally it was that.
Well, technically.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I'll accept it. Oh, yeah, there's Yelena, but she's dead, so, I mean, okay. Well, she's not dead, but
you can't really put that in the movie, especially because they didn't know. But
also, the audience has no idea who Yelena is.
Yeah. So, technically...
It's that thing.
Yeah. So, yeah, and then they go back to Grill's place, and they start coming up with a plan, I guess.
Over a nice breakfast table.
Yeah, eating pizza.
Absolutely. The best kind of breakfast. What are you talking about?
Pizza? Hell yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Especially the cold one.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and then there's having a conversation, actually, honestly. And Kate gets a text from Yelena going, "Hey, I figured out who hired me. It was, what's the mom's name?
Eleanor Bishop.
Yeah, and she's like, just thought you should know, which I don't know why. I like that in the text. I like that part just because it's kind of like, does she already see Kate as a little kind of like a friend already or something, or what?
Well, maybe the implication is that she was kind of impressed with Kate during her original meeting. That she I guess it suggests that Kate made such an impression on Yelena that Yelena went out of her way to actually dig up who it was that hired her. And when she realized it, out of respect, it seemed like Yelena was just, passing along information that she felt Kate had every right to know about. Now, when we first saw Yelena kind of stalking Eleanor, it was pretty funny. I thought she was gonna kidnap her, or maybe even or go up into the building or whatever. I did not know that she was doing what she ended up doing, and that was tell Kate of this revelation. And before we get to the other thing, this seemingly, I feel like this is the final confirmation that, yeah, Kate's mom is kind of a baddie in this series. I feel like that pretty much confirms all of the things that I've been saying about her. That she set up Jack, that she already knew of the stuff that Kate told her, and that's why she set him up. And that she also probably is responsible for the death of the other Duquesne, the one from the first episode where they first got into a fight, and then afterward he ends up getting stabbed in the stomach. And then on top of all of that, clearly she has a nefarious operation going on. Of course, it backs up the phone call that she made. So I feel like that also, from the last episode, it confirms that she called up somebody to hire an assassin to get a hit on Clint after she asked Hawkeye if he would drop the case, and he confirmed that he would not, which then led to her calling somebody to take him out. So, before
I was going to say,
yeah. No.
I was going to say, this is why I don't mind the after credit scene in Black Widow, because you can say that the mom hired an assassin, but it probably went through Val, and I think that's how they're going to explain it.
Okay.
In the show. Hopefully, that's how they'll explain it.
I think that's the only way that makes sense, right?
Yeah. Basically.
Yeah, so Val went to go look for specifically Elena, and maybe the person she called on the phone was Val? Right?
Actually, yeah, I probably think so.
But then why would Val be interested in this? Isn't she... We don't even know what she is or what organization she runs. She's referred to herself as a representative of the government of some sort, but we don't really know what kind of operation she runs or why she would be concerned with why Eleanor Bishop wants Hawkeye dead. I don't know. Part of that just seems a bit weird and not entirely clear. Unless maybe Val was contacted by who we presume to be Eleanor's boss. And maybe he, at this point, has become involved. More so than we are aware of.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that's what it is. Before we move off of that, I don't know what's going to become of her. I mean, Eleanor. In the next episode. Like, I could see her being either just put away or maybe she dies. Like, it's kind of hard to tell. By who, especially, that would be a really interesting question. That's kind of really out there as far as, like, how that... So, I don't know how to call how that's going to end.
Yeah, that's kind of interesting. I mean, I don't know. I kind of hope that it ends with her kind of getting away with what she did. Like, Kate's gonna be mad about it, and she's probably gonna be like, "Leave me alone," whatever. But I wouldn't mind if she kind of got away with what she did.
Neither would I, because it is Via Farmiga, so it's like I would like to see more of her. She is a great actor, you know. You don't just get her to do what she's been limited to so far, unless maybe that was the intent. Who knows? Mm-hmm. So there is that aspect of it. I also don't know what's... Yeah, well, we'll get to that. We get a pretty big reveal here of somebody we've been expecting for weeks now. And I want to be the first one to say that I was right. Not with like who it was, but for one theory I had. And that was, I think it was last week, I want to say. And that is the reveal of who Eleanor is working for. And I called that one. And that is the one and only Kingpin.
Mm-hmm.
And I do mean the one and only Kingpin. As Hawkeye refers to, well, that's the guy I've been worried about this entire time. And we see a picture of Eleanor with Kingpin played by the one and only Vincent D'Onofrio. Which, talk about throwing a dark horse into everything. That puts a lot of things up in the air as to like what's going down and what's gonna go down in the finale. And I'm hoping that means we're gonna actually see Vincent D'Onofrio in some scenes next week and not just a post-credit or something.
I hope we get a scene.
I feel like we're kind of due, because I feel that at this point, this is the reveal, right? That the puppet master behind all of the things that are going down in the show go back to him.
Mm-hmm.
Kate's mom, Eleanor, is tied to him, as well as Maya's entire operation, which who the hell knows how that's going to get resolved, because I would imagine Maya would be pretty pissed at the fact that Kingpin put a hit out on her father. So that's a whole different aspect. And then you have the Yelena Belova of it all, and how involved, I guess she is working on behalf of Kingpin then. So am I to understand that Eleanor called Kingpin, and then Kingpin with his contacts called Val, who then enlisted Yelena? That's a pretty tangled web here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, yeah, I do hope we do get like a big scene with Kingpin and all. I don't want a fighting scene though. That's the thing.
We don't need that here.
Yeah, we don't need that here. But also, I'm rewatching Daredevil, and yeah, we ain't gonna get a fight scene like that.
I don't think that's... Yeah, well, we'll see if that's ever really in play, but at least for this, I'm not sure. Well, I don't know, man. That's why I'm kind of scared about what could happen. I mean, it would be pretty bold of them if, Kingpin decides that Eleanor's usefulness has run its course and he brutally murders her. But that's hard to buy that on a Disney Plus show.
I know. I don't think you're gonna get that.
Not that I want to see that, but I mean, whenever he does kill people, it's always been obscenely horrific.
Mm-hmm. No, yeah, it's just...
Remember when he strangled what's his name, the reporter in season 1, or strangled or just crushed him. I don't even know. He went to the Ben Yuri or Ben something, the reporter that Karen was working with, and that he snuck into his home and then murdered him.
Yeah, I don't remember how he died, but like, you know, I saw the episode where he kills a guy with the fucking car door and shit. Yeah. So, you know, you got that. But no, I mean, it's good. I'm trying to look for a picture. There's this one scene in season 3. I know you haven't seen it, but like, he is Kingpin is fucking bloody, you know, in this scene because he was fighting against Daredevil, and
right.
It was insane. I tried to find it, but nah, I don't think I can. No, but you know, it's just whoever is listening, like if you know what I'm talking about in season 3, we're not gonna get anything like that of Kingpin, and I don't think in any of the MCU movies.
Not even the revived Daredevil show, you mean?
Yeah.
I mean, one can hope, right? I did remember reading something to the effect that Moon Knight is supposed to be the most violent and bloody show yet for Disney Plus. So they may be pushing the envelope a little bit with Moon Knight, who I guess is like the MCU's Batman.
Apparently, but I mean, I don't know what they mean by that. And I mean, I wouldn't mind if, like, you know, he is beating the heck out of someone, but like it's always off camera and like you don't see the bloody mess or anything. Like, I wouldn't mind that kind of stuff. It's just, what do you mean by pushing it?
Yeah. What does that look like exactly? So that's what we're going to have to wait and see about all of this. But it also does make you think, Hawkeye is an Avenger. And he's scared of Kingpin. That's like, you think like the Avengers would be on the level that like they would be able to eliminate any threat, Kingpin included, but I don't know what happens in season 3, and I'm not even sure if any of the events that happen in that regarding Wilson Fisk's storyline even matter all that much. In terms of like how connected and how protected he is. But I guess this would seem pretty evident that Kingpin is well protected. That he has friends in high official places that will protect him, maybe Val included. And that way he has that's why maybe he is called Kingpin, because he just is that powerful. It's going to be fascinating to see, right? How he interacts with this cast. This is kind of a big deal. By this time next week, though, we are going to see Matt Murdock come back first in Spider-Man. So by this time this week, we'll have seen both Matt Murdock and Kingpin come back. And we should, I'm hoping, get enough of a sample of their performances where we can, and I'm curious to see if they're going to feel exactly the same as the versions that they played of those characters on Daredevil, or if they're a little bit tweaked. And I'm curious to see the response that gets.
I mean, I want to say...
Also, it's no accident that this is happening at the same time. Kevin Feige definitely planned out the release of these two characters from the same show coming into the MCU.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, but I mean, in terms of their acting, I think they're going to be the same. It's just, again, I don't think it's just going to lead to anything bloody or...
Overtly violent,
yeah. Basically, because, I mean, you can make him you can still make Kingpin like pretty intimidating. You know, it just doesn't have to be from like a, you know, gonna like beat you to a pulp type of intimidating. Like, no, it can just be like, are you sure? Like, oh, are you sure you want to attack me? And then he brings out like a shit ton of people or something. Or, you know, I know where you live now, basically, with Hawkeye or something like that. Who knows? But yeah, I'm very curious what they're gonna do with Kingpin.
Yeah, but we get the reveal and we see the kind of a distant image, but we know enough of that we know who that is clearly, and even the credits say Vincent D'Onofrio. But I love how we have that reveal, and then we cut to the credits with "You're a mean one, Mr. Grinch." That was so funny.
Oh my god, that's dope. But I loved it.
I loved it so much. But it's kind of like, and then of course, if you see the animation of the credits, it ends with like, Kingpin's shadow overlooking New York. And it almost reminds me of the Spider-Verse version of Kingpin, with how like big and large he is and everything. So brilliant use of a song right there to indicate. And of course,
that's good.
The Christmas music definitely living up there. But yeah, I think that's all we have to say with this episode. There's not much more to say except that I'm very curious to see what's going to happen. I have to say, only maybe because I already know what's going to happen in No Way Home, I'm far more interested to see how the finale of Hawkeye plays out because of who's in play than I am with the movie.
Yeah, for sure.
Because a lot of things to parse through. I'm thinking, I don't know when we're going to get the next Marvel Disney Plus series.
Yeah. What's next, though?
I don't know. I don't think they've confirmed entirely just yet. It's either She-Hulk or Moon Knight. It's one of those two. Maybe it is She-Hulk. I'm thinking we may have to do something in the meantime because it just so happens that we're getting all these characters back from Daredevil. It has occurred to me I've not seen season 3. And I've heard a lot of great things about Daredevil season 3. So not only do I feel that a Daredevil rewatch is in order, but I think you and I might want to maybe do a thing where we look back on the first 2 seasons, but more importantly, maybe finally give season 3 its due. And I don't think we've ever done a review of season 3 for the show on our podcast. So that could be fun.
Yeah, for sure.
Just to give us something. And if She-Hulk is the next show, we know that Matt Murdock is going to be on that show as well. So you see the connective tissue going on there. It may be the perfect opportunity to do so.
Yeah, I think that way. That's probably why I think She-Hulk will be next. Because, I mean, if you're bringing him back, might as well put him in something like right away. Yeah. So.
Now, not for nothing, there were also rumors, although they're far less substantiated at this point, and they're not as common as the other rumors that we know, that he will make an appearance in Echo and that he will also have his own revived series. But there was a rumor, take it for wherever you will, that he would have some sort of role in Secret Invasion. But then again, we still know nothing about that show.
Yeah, like we know the cast,
kind of, but
kind
also a lot of it I suspect is being kept under wraps. So, which for all the leaks that have come out, and maybe I have low expectations because of how bad the leaks have been for No Way Home, but the Yelena stuff has been mostly kept under wraps.
Yeah,
unless if you follow certain media personalities, you probably already knew it was going to happen a while ago. But if you don't, and if you just see the stuff and maybe just go on Twitter, there wasn't any leaked images to my knowledge that Yelena would be on the show. Or Kingpin.
Yeah.
Although the rumors did get out that would kind of happen.
I think it was more so theories.
Yeah.
Rumors. But yeah. We'll see.
We will see. Well, thank you so much, David, for being here. Thank you all for listening, and stay tuned for Red Spotlight. We have so much more content. It's the holidays, but we still amazingly have a lot of content left to go. So stick it here under our spotlight on Red Spotlight Entertainment. We'll see you next week. Bye-bye.
Bye.